Sound speeds and welcome to Masked Mics. Now, this is episode number 2, which means we're going to be starting by unmasking the microphones that were masked in episode number 1. If you have not yet watched episode number 1 or you want to hear them again, then click that link right up there and check out that video. If you have not yet watched it, you'll want to watch it first. Otherwise, this video will make no sense to you at all. So, starting with the unmasking of microphone number 1, it is the Shure SM58, and microphone number 2 is the Shure SM7B. Two very similar sounding microphones. Not really. They are both by the same manufacturer, yes, but the SM58 is probably most notorious for being the most common microphone that is used on stage performances. Chances are your favorite bands have these on the stage when you go to see them live in concert. This microphone here, the SM7B, is the second generation after the SM7 microphone. There was the SM7, SM7A, now the SM7B. The SM7 is the legendary microphone that was the microphone that Michael Jackson used for Thriller. That's its claim to fame. The SM58 you can buy on Amazon for about $100, and the SM7B is usually on Amazon for about $400. So there's a bit of a price difference between the two of them, about a quarter of a difference right there. A quarter of the price of this microphone right here is the price of this microphone right there. I put links down in the description down below, and yeah, there you go. The two microphones that we had in episode number 1 masked was the SM58 and SM7B. As you noticed, I have still been switching back and forth between the two of them, so you can still hear them live right here with my voice, and you can see I didn't actually change anything. Nothing in post has been done. So if you would like to send me a microphone to blindly test against another one, be sure to send me an email at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. But now we have more microphones to mask. Get your listening ears on, and by that I mean your headphones, because these two masked mics are about to be put to the test, or comparison rather. Let's start with a noise floor test. This week's story took place in a former life of mine when I was a, believe it or not, preschool photographer. I worked for a large photography company that specialized in everything from church and sports photos to high school and preschool. I was in the preschool division, and after about 2 years, I was promoted to low-level management. Official title, lead photographer. That also meant that not only was I a photographer, I was also a trainer and team mentor. My team was in Georgia and in Tennessee. So part of my job was going to be doing quality assurance checks, field evaluations, and stuff like that. And I had to travel to my photographers to go over their work with them and to give them feedback and to train in the field. So I had one photographer out there in Memphis, and she was usually the one that was most difficult for me to go visit because all of my other photographers were localized to certain areas and I could see them more often. Now, when I went out to visit this photographer, you could say I could go up to Chattanooga, then to Nashville, then over to Memphis. But at the time, it was easier and quicker for me to drive through Alabama and Mississippi. It's probably still to this day from the house I was living in back then. But it was there was a lot of road construction back then, I guess I could say. And this was before I really had a GPS. So I had to use MapQuest or something along those lines in order to get where I was going. I'd have to print out my directions and hope and pray that the road construction did not reroute me someplace I didn't want to go. It's also important to note that I do not normally carry cash on me. The reason for that is I always just use my debit or credit card, so why bother? So here I was driving the path that MapQuest presented me with, and suddenly I come across this little podunk road that I'm going to be traveling down for about 30 to 35 miles, and I run across a little bitty toll road, a little bitty toll booth. Right in the middle of these 2-lane road, you actually have to go off of and veer off of the road just a little bit onto the shoulder in order to make room for this. I swear, this toll booth was this wide. And he basically was sitting in the middle of this little thing that was about as wide as his shoulders. And I said, how much is the toll? He said, 50 cents. I looked around in my car, could not find 50 cents anywhere. Because I don't carry cash on me, I had no options. So this guy I said, do you accept a card? He says, no, we can't accept a card, but you can go back to that gas station back there. They'll probably have an ATM that you can use. Okay. I also don't like fees, and paying for fees for things is something I don't really like doing. But I went back and I looked at this ATM and it was out of commission, and it also had a $7 fee on it, even if it was working. Well, part of my job was I was allowed to do certain things like expense certain things. And one of the things I looked at expensing was going to be maybe I could sell a gas card. So I got a gas card, a $20 gas card off of the shelf there. And there were quite a few people around. I said, hey guys, look, I'm just trying to get, I need a gas. I need to buy a card in order to get some cash back here since the ATM's down and I don't really know how to get 50 cents for the toll booth around the corner. I'm going to try to sell one of these $20 cards that they have here for $10. Anybody want to buy this? I'll put $20 on this thing because I basically am going to be using a card for this to pay for it. But if someone could give me $10 in cash, you get $20 for it if someone's just willing to do this. I had a whole bunch of country people looking at me kind of like, I'm not sure about this. And I'm like, this is something they sell in this store. It's right here. I take it off of the shelf. I pay them $20 for it. You give me $10 for it. And they will tell you, is this a legit thing? And the guy behind the counter is like, yeah, we can do that. I'm like, so I'm just looking for $10 cash. Anybody willing to give that to me? And they were all kind of like, shifty-eyed looking back. We don't trust this. We don't know about this. They had no idea who I was. I was just a traveling guy that spoke very clean English in comparison to that little podunk town. They had no idea who I was or anything about me, and they were not about to trust this because, I guess you could say this is something very out of the question. I stayed around there for probably 45 minutes before somebody walked through the door and at least gave me a little bit more than just shooting me straight down. And that was, they kind of listened and said, what do you need this $10 for? And I said, the toll booth around the corner. It's just this, that's my MapQuest directions right here. And I showed them, are trying to direct me down this road, and I'm trying to get my way to Memphis, but the road closures and everything have just totally messed up my whole path. And that is the only way I know to go without rerouting myself like probably 30 or 40 or 50 or however many miles out of the way. And then I would be on a completely different path and not know anything about where I'm going, and I would have no directions anymore. So luckily I found one little person that said, well, you need 50 cents. I'll give you 50 cents. Okay, cool. So I took that 50 cents and I went back to the toll booth and gave it to the guy and hit the road, went through there. So all of that delayed myself all in all about an hour and a half for 50 cents that I was not carrying. So you better believe after that time, I did carry a little bit of toll money in my car just in case I happened to catch a little toll booth like that in the middle of Podunk, Alabama. And that's one of the few ways that little dude was probably making income by having a road go through his property. And it, luckily for him, happened to be a pretty good time to collect some money because of the road closures all through Alabama. So there was my story for the week. Hopefully you have heard enough of these two microphones being compared back and forth between the two of them. There is no pop filter or anything in line. And so there you go. That's the two microphones that we have this week on Masked Mics. So tune in next week for the big reveal of what these two microphones are. And until then, they're my secret. Take care. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.